You're listening to the Apex Chronicles, where truth rises, healing begins, and silence ends. I am your host, Coach Hope, and today we're talking about something that many people suffer with in silence. Something that many people may have experienced, but you didn't know exactly what the name of it was called that you were experiencing. Well, today we're talking about parental alienation syndrome, aka PAS. Parental alienation syndrome, it's like this: it's when one parent turns a child or children emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually against the other parent. It's not something that's always loud or where you can see it. It likes to hide behind the shadows, in a very low whisper, right? Just gnawing away at every visit or every encounter, uh, words of division and parental alienation. The language, the verbiage is a lot of times what we're not aware that we're causing some type of division in the child's mind, you know. And then sometimes there are some people who actually do know that they are manipulating with their words and coercively controlling with their words, right? It's like slow dripping poison dripping into the roots of a child's love, their foundational, love from parent, mother, father. Parental alienation is not just a custody issue, it's a psychological issue and abuse. And it's actually psychological abuse and emotional abuse. It is domestic violence. It is child abuse. Yeah, child abuse. And regardless if a parent is intentionally or not intentionally trying to do this, it does erode away and damages the child's relationship with the other parent. You know, a lot of times people could say, "Oh, I didn't know that what I was saying or what I was doing was causing a rift," but they actually do, because then the signs become very, obvious and overt in the child, in their change of behavior, and wanting to shun away or having a attitude with the other absent parent that didn't didn't do anything to them to cause the verbal attacks or cause the withdrawal and desire to, you know, be in community and visitation with that absent parent who is being alienated. Now, a lot of times children don't know. They don't know that the adults are actually fighting and having a disagreement to the level that they themselves, their love is being weaponized and used against them as a family, as a child. Alienated parents go through a lot of, emotional and psychological um, challenges, um, as well as the children who are involved. And we'll get a little deeper into that as the podcast, um, goes. That I'll share some of the psychological damage that has, that will take place in children. if gone unaddressed or rectified, and changing, that language in that relationship between that absent parent, alienated parent, targeted parent. So as children are in their honest state, you may find your child rejecting or fearing you, or hating you, right? And saying hateful words, not because of anything that you did wrong necessarily, but it's because sometimes that other parent is feeding fear and guilt and lies into that child. And yeah, it's amazing. I grew up, with the understanding that children are not allowed to be in grown folks' business. That was me. That's how I grew up. You children over there, adults over here. You seen and not heard, and all of those things. Now, as a result of that, I was never the parent who felt like just treating that full tradition was in my life like that, and into my family. I always believe my children, for me, they're seen and they're heard. Let's take a real world example of a scenario. Let's say a child used to, love spending the weekends with their father and doing all of the fun things, but suddenly every visit becomes stressful. The child starts saying things like, I don't want to go to dad's anymore. He's mean, though dad has never changed. See, but behind the scenes, the mother, mm-hmm, the mother may have been saying something like, if you really loved me, you wouldn't leave me. Not leave me every weekend to go with your dad, right? Or worse, your father left us. He doesn't care about us. And that also can work with women, all right, who are alienated from their children by the father, right? Is, oh, if you really loved me, you wouldn't leave me alone every weekend to go with your mom, right? Or worse, you know, your mom left us. She doesn't care about us. Shit like that, you know. Now, what happens? The child feels guilty for loving the father or the mother, whomever is the targeted parent at that time. And they feel like, you know, loving that alienated parent um, is somehow being disloyal to their other parent that they may be living with. Isn't that something? If you would put a child in between grown folk mess and make them feel the stressors of being an adult and having to deal with a complicated situation, as opposed to being in a child's place and not having to deal with adult mess, just to be a child. How many of us want to go back to our childhood where we don't have to worry about the stressors of adulthood? Okay? And yet, we have parents out here putting children, using them as shields to protect their abusiveness. That's sad. That's confusion to the child. That's pressure that the child shouldn't even have to worry about. And that's where the root of parental alienation begins, especially when they're 8 and 9 and 10 years old and their minds have not been fully molded. So what goes in it, and they're learning how to hate and how to fear and how to carry a load that is not their load to carry. It never was. It ain't even Bible that children should carry their parents' load of hate and vengeance. No, that's not the child's place. The child was made in love, right? When you're sitting there and you're relating, so keep that same energy, even if we're no longer together. I don't get that with folk. And how you gonna use children, innocent. You know you get in trouble with God, messing with God's children, the babies. Oh, that's a world of trouble. You know, but folks don't believe that they have to encounter any consequences. You know, but we are a temple, right? And we, are always in the presence of God. In nature, no matter where we at, in home, outside, at church, wherever we at work. So when we're showing and teaching one another how to hate and alienate and not walk in love, that's not God. That's the little g God. That's ego God. That's the self God, not the God that's up on high, right? The big G. And that's the difference. That's the difference. Another example of, the root of the parental alienation, giving you a scenario, is a mother. A mother who has raised her son since birth, breastfed him, took him to the hospital, the pulmonologist, the various specialists for any of his ailments, inhaler, every doctor's appointment. This mother was at all of the appointments, making sure her children and her son especially was safe and healthy, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, when that mother is showing up and doing her best and participating in her children's life, but after the father gains custody, that means you can say father may not even gain custody. The father has a visitation for the summer, and the son, starts acting up and pulling away from mama. Don't want to deal with the situation of visits. Calls stop, visits become short and cold. Okay, all of the nastiness that an adult would do, and vengefulness. See, those are actions that an adult would do. And not a child. A child wouldn't know nothing about not calling you. You see, even though children need to be reminded, but if they're already in a pattern of doing so, then what? And they stop calling. See, there's all kind of scenarios out here, and now that mother, that father doesn't even have any type of visits because now the child's mind has been been tainted. Not a child walking around talking about you crazy. Dad said you were unstable. You know, Dad said that, you didn't want me. You didn't want me or my sister, right? Dad is saying your mama would rather be running out there and be gay than to be a mother to you, right? She left us. Yeah. She would rather help the children in the foster care system find homes and place them when they've run away. She'd rather deal with them, but you all, mm-mm. Or here you go. Here's another one. Your mother, yeah, she didn't want you. She gave my last name when you were born. Yeah, you see that on the birth certificate there. See, she didn't even put her name on there. She gave you all to me because she didn't want you. Can you imagine a father or a mother telling their child that for years on out? Anytime they cried, anytime they had a celebratory situation, it was I want to call my mama, I want to call my daddy, I want to let them know, but it was met with a no. She don't want you. Mm-mm. Remember, she didn't want you. Don't call her. You see, and that's the kind of language and the investment that narcissists do. They do that. Yeah. You see, when they go on them visits and they have that quiet time away, and they chip away at the mind of the children, babies in the situation. Don't know nothing but to love. And now they got to be taught how to hate the womb that brought them, the seed that brought them. No, that's the devil is a lie. But that is a true thing and a true behavior and true scenario that I gave you. So you don't have to worry about she being hyperbolic. No, I'm spitting truth. Yeah, that's what God loves. Truth. Yeah. That's real scenario. Imagine the person you've been married to or known since high school, and you have children, and then 10, 15, 20 years later, you're learning and understanding what the hell just happened to you. Yeah, that's a lot to sit there and think that a parent can sit there and tell a child that your mama didn't want you, that she preferred other people over you. That was the pit of the devil's pit of a lie. Yeah, but that's what happens when we putting children in grown folk business, and they ain't got no business in it. So now you got a mother or a father who is watching their baby turn into a stranger. Whoo, that part. Can you even imagine sitting next to your child or walking past them in a hospital bed and you don't even recognize them, but they call out to you, Mama, daddy. And you turn and you look, and the child that you once knew is a stranger. A whole complete stranger from you. You've been erased. And that's another term we're going to talk about, is the erasure of parents who are alienated from their children. People be planting seeds of rejection into the minds and hearts and souls of innocent children. That's parental alienation. It's not just co-parenting drama. No, it's psychological and it's spiritual warfare. And let's talk about the children and what they suffer in this great loss, in this great battle. Caught in between two parents. They become confused about love, loyalty, and identity. Yeah, their identity. They often grow up with trust issues, depression, guilt, and difficulty forming healthy relationships. All because they were forced to reject someone who is one half of who they are, their identity. How do you erase another parent and then the children grow up? They don't know what to tell the doctor, the diseases in the family, because they only got one side. And although narcissists will believe only one side matters, no, both sides do. Especially when it comes down to life or death. And that's why I say parental alienation is child abuse. Well, let me correct that. That's why it is considered by psychologists and, all the important folks who have, wrote in the DSM-5. They say that. Okay? They say that. It's child abuse. And that would be. If you was taught to reject half of yourself, we reject sometimes ourselves, period, because sometimes of what individuals say and do to us as a result, right? And so as a result of another parent lying and manipulating and pouring in hate and rejection and forcing it, that's the part about it. You force feeding a child to eat hate and to know about it enough to target it and aim it at the right person that you believe is the right person. But what happens when it backfires on you? And people don't think about all of those things. They just do. And they do according to their God. And not the big G God, the self God. Yeah. And that's why you got to divorce yourself from people and their gods. That's why I've been busy divorcing myself from people and their God. Their little G ain't never did a damn thing for me, but caused me drama and pain, okay? So, that's the truth, Ruth, on that. Parental alienation doesn't just erase the targeted parent. It erodes the child's foundation. It robs them of emotional balance, safety, and wholeness. Why children are walking around feeling unsafe in their own skin because they were forced to reject one half of themselves. The parent who loved them and still loves them very much. You can't do that and think that the child is going to turn out uh, just all right, miraculously be all right, with no side effects to the poison and the hate poured into them by the other half of their identity. That's a hard, jagged pill to swallow, but it is a true one. And there are levels to parental alienation. There are three, and let me share them with you. There is mild, moderate, right, and severe. And your mild parental alienation is the child shows some small signs of resistance or discomfort towards one parent. Mm-hmm. The alienating parent plants emotional seeds of doubt. Your mom, your dad is always busy and doesn't care about us, or you only cares about his or her making money. You know, just talks like that, right? Yeah, that's mild. That's the verbiage, you know, and that subtle emotional abuse right there is shaping the child's, you know, mind and how they feel and what they think about the other parent. Mm-hmm. But the effects of that, the short-term effects, is guilt, anxiety, and insecurity. Now, the long-term impact is mistrust in relationships, confusion about love, and safety. Yeah, I can't trust. Who? This is a parent that I'm supposed to be safe with, and it is not. And let me say this: I am not speaking about into a population of folks where I'm talking about someone who has been court ordered that you are not a fit parent, right? I'm not talking about being alienated and you know some, you know, you're being already found guilty of some horrible abuses. I'm not talking to that person, those people. I'm speaking to people who have no court order, whose children have been coercively controlled and kidnapped and brainwashed, right, and manipulated, and they've had no justice. And now you have level 2, which is moderate, and the child begins rejecting time with the targeted parent. The alienated parent validates the rejection. You don't have to go if you're not comfortable, right? The abuse connection, though, on that is now it becomes psychological control. The child's emotions are used as tools in the conflict. You see, that's in that moderate. The effects is short-term depression, acting out, and divided loyalty. The long-term relationship difficulties is identity struggles and fear of abandonment. Level 3, that hits different for me. Mm-hmm. Level 3 is severe. That's the child fully rejects or hates the targeted parent. Mm-hmm. And often repeats the adult accusations, you know, such as, oh, dad abused us, mom left us for someone else to go be gay. See, you know, whatever it was that they were coached and what was implanted in their head, they often spew out of their mouth. And they do it sometimes very publicly. The as well, the alienating parent erases all contact, photos, messages, family memories. That's a big one. That's a big one. When we talk about erasure and all of those things, that goes up underneath there too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The abuse connection. And this is domestic violence by proxy, using the child as a weapon of control. It's psychological child abuse and emotional kidnapping. Now, the effects of the severe parental alienation, level 3, is short term hostility, emotional instability, social withdrawal, long term trauma bonding, PTSD, trust issues, and later alienation from their own children. See how that generational curse continues to pass down from generation to generation? And we got over, 22 million Americans dealing with and experiencing parental alienation, and 10 million experiencing severe alienation. Ain't that nothing? Yeah, that's a very painful level to be at, and unfortunately, it's the level that I am. Level 3. Yeah, it's this, and this is why the professionals say it's child abuse. You're manipulating and damaging a child's sense of security. It's domestic violence because it's about power and punishment and control. I can't control your body. You wouldn't marry me. And, you know, any other thought that that person wants to choose to hold against that other parent is oftentimes their excuse. How dare you move on in life and I'm unhappy with myself, so let me control the children and damage their relationship with you. Yeah, see how you like that, right? That's a very destructive person and a very sick mind that does it. But we have to, work on the things that make us sick in our minds so that we're not cutting and bleeding all over the place in other people's lives and bringing generational curses into their family bloodline, right? That's the way I see it. That's the way I see it, based on what I've experienced personally, myself as an 18-year targeted parent and navigating this life without my children. So yeah, it's emotional and psychological abuse, because it uses fear and guilt, and gaslighting to restore reality. Yeah. So that's a lot right there to chew on. No parent has the right to interfere with the child's relationship with another parent. If there's no court that didn't said, or no investigation that said that that parent was hurting that child, or anything like that, then you wrong. You dead wrong. And I stand on business with that. Because our children and our village is burning down. Because we somewhere wanting to be mad and think that we got a heaven and hell to put people in and punish them for what? For why? Don't even matter. But this is my ministry. This is my mic, my story, and my voice that I am raising only my children, but for the children who are navigating the confusion, the hate, and have to get up and go to school every day and function and navigate life and all of its challenges and figure out who they are in the process of grown folks putting children, being grown folks' business before it is their time. Yeah. When you choose to do harm to children or any human being, and it impacts their emotional development and violates their rights to love, freely both parents without a hater, without a hijacker in sight, without competition. You see, it's no place for children. So as I say, parental alienation is not co-parenting gone wrong. It's abuse hiding in plain sight, narcissistic control, even the flying monkey, which we'll get into a little later on this podcast show, and the other silent enablers all play a part in destroying families. But awareness brings light. Healing begins when truth is spoken out loud. So, as we wrap up today, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, and listen and follow and share with your friends and your network. Uh, but in the meantime, if you are experiencing parental alienation, I would like for you to do a few things. Document and seek support from a trauma informed therapist or coach. Avoid reacting emotionally and responding to the, you know, nonsense and BS that is happening to you and your children and family. Just do your best, I will say, because I don't ever want to tell someone what not to do when they're dealing with parental alienation, but keep yourself safe, and narcissists love to pull you into their traps. So just have your awareness, up when dealing with, and be present when dealing with the narcissist and your children. Remember that your children deserve both parents. Them babies need you here. We cannot lose mothers and fathers to meth, crack, suicide, or anything else that would, cause you to be unalive. Okay? So always use 988 if you believe that you're in crisis and you need to talk with someone, and reach out to your mental health professional or your physician to get, a referral if that's what's needed. Okay? And you're not in this fight alone. It has taken me 18 years to get to the place of using my voice and using this tragedy that happened to me and my family and children to talk about it with other individuals who may not have ever heard the term parental alienation syndrome. And now it's time for us to learn about it so that we can go and get the healing and the help from the helpers and the healers. And we can identify what that monster is so that we can bind it and send it to the pit of hell so that we can, unite and heal as a family, as a people, as a village. So let's continue to name the silent wounds and walking boldly towards our healing. Remember, you're not erased. You are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. The Apex Chronicles is a space of truth, hope, and transformation. Until next time, walk in strength, elevate your voice, and hold on to hope.